Hi everyone, I am here to show you how to make a Good Shepherd themed sheep magnet toy. So this is a fairly simple project, but you're going to repeat some of the steps a number of times. So I'm just going to give you a quick demo of how to make a little magnet sheep, and it's going to end up looking kind of like this. So to start, the supplies that you need are this baggie should be in your maker kit. It has these wool pom-poms, magnets, googly eyes, cardstock, pipe cleaners, and a bead. And then you're also going to need a white sheet of paper. It should also be in your box. This is cardstock, and a pencil. And then you'll also need scissors. You can use kid scissors, that's totally fine. I just have adult scissors right now. You may want some markers to decorate the paper at the end. And then you'll also need two kinds of glue. I have tacky glue and I have super glue. And I'm gonna tell you when to use the tacky glue and when to use the super glue. Tacky glue is totally fine for kids to use, washes off pretty easily. Super glue really should only be used by an adult. You only need a tiny bit, and if it gets stuck on your fingers, it's really hard to get off. So I recommend only an adult uses it. So let's get started and I'll show you how to make a sheep. But first, I'm going to explain a little bit about magnets. Now you can see in my bag, all sorts of things are stuck to my magnet. The pipe cleaner has metal in the middle of it, it's stuck. For some reason, these googly eyes, I think the little black dot in them is magnetic, and so they are all stuck on there. So I'm just gonna put those aside for a second. And a quick note about safety. These magnets are very strong. They are also on the small side. So if you have young children around, it's very, very important that they do not play with these magnets. So a quick science lesson about magnets. If you open these up, space them apart a little bit, you will notice that on one side, each of them has a dot, and on the other side, each of them is flat. The two sides of a magnet are different. Magnets have poles. One is, we would call the North Pole, and one is the South Pole. Yes, just like the Earth. And in fact, the Earth, those are related to magnetism, and that's also how a compass works. So if you're curious about that, you can look up a little bit more information later. But I want to show you how these magnets work. So when we have we have two different sides. The north side, I believe, is the one with the dot. The north side, if the north side goes with the north side, they are not going to be able to touch each other. So this is called repelling. And if the south side, the smooth one, goes with the dot one, the north side, they will swoop, go together. That is called attracting. So magnets are interesting because when you go to put them on your fridge or any other kind of metal, like these scissors, they'll stick either side. But when you're putting a magnet to another magnet, they will only go together if they're opposites. So you can see they go a little bit closer, but really they're pushing each other apart. And when I flip one over, it can grab the others. So we are going to use this feature to help us make a fun little toy. And the space in between these, this is invisible space. This is called the magnetic field. And if you get them close but not touching, you can feel under your fingers actually. Oh, see, there they go. Woo! They'll jump. So as I said, you gotta be really careful with these. You can even make them flip over and jump to you. So we are gonna use these. Oh, and one more example of how strong these magnets are. You can try this at home very carefully with an adult supervision. It sticks through my finger. Oh, they really want to be together. And of course, if I flip it over, one of them will just fall down. So these are pretty fun. There's lots of different things you can do with magnets. There's lots of toys that are made with magnets. In fact, even some engines run with magnets. But we're just going to do something pretty basic. So what we're going to need is we will need 4 of our magnets to be on the smooth side and 1 of them to be on the dot side. And we're going to glue stuff on top of these, and then they're going to interact with each other. So right now I'm going to put aside 4 of them, and I'm just going to start with 1 on the flat side. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make a little sheep. So you have 4 colors of pom-poms, and these are all made out of real wool. So wool is what comes off of a sheep, and I thought it would be fun for you to have something that was actually made out of wool. They also have really soft, squishy pom-poms that are just made out of polyester or other fabrics, but these are real wool. So you can choose. You're going to make 3 sheep and 1 wolf, and then you're also going to make a shepherd. So you can choose what color your sheep are. You can also choose what color your wolf is. So when I did this earlier, I chose a brown wolf. You could choose a gray wolf, whatever you want. Sheep are typically black, white, and then, you could have a fun colored sheep. So I am going to start by making a white sheep first. And I am gonna give him, same thing with the paper. These are to make their faces. And you have 4 different sheets of paper, and you can do any combination of colors. You can match them, you can do opposites. So I might do like this and give them different color faces to their bodies. It doesn't really matter. You want your wolf to look a little bit different than your sheep. So you can even make multiple faces out of 1 sheet of paper. So for this first sheep, I'm gonna do a white sheep with a black face. Okay, the way to draw a sheep face, I'm gonna draw it on the white paper first just to show you really large, and then I'll make it tiny on my black paper. So the way to draw a sheep face is to make a big U, an uppercase U, and then you draw sort of a curve going over the U with some space in between, and then you make these the little ears. There you go. That's the shape that we're gonna make for our sheep face. And then if you wanna draw a little nose and mouth, you make a little Y down here. And then you can do like a little line for just like sort of a serious face, or you can make a little smile. And that's your little sheep face. And then we're gonna glue googly eyes on. So I'm gonna do this same exact thing on this black sheet of paper, but tiny, to go on to glue onto here. I'm gonna make it about that size. So I'm gonna draw my U, then I'm gonna do my curve over the top and make my little ears, and then make a little face. And the pencil shows up kind of nicely on the black paper, but if you do another color paper, pencil will work, or whatever you want. And then you're just gonna cut this out. And after I finish cutting it on, I'm gonna glue it. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is glue my googly eyes on. These guys are really tiny, and I'm very well aware that this might be a little bit hard to work with. So we're gonna use the tacky glue for this. I'm gonna squeeze, and it's okay, this glue does not dry super fast. It's okay if it gets on your fingers, so don't worry too much. I'm gonna get a little bit of glue onto my eyeball. I'm gonna stick it right there. You can make the face a little bit bigger than I made it. I might have made it a little bit too small this time. That's okay. All God's creatures are a little different from each other. Okay, little glue on the eye. Stick the eyeball on the face. He's gonna be kind of a little goofy sheep. Look how the glue's wet, it moves around, and it's gonna dry clear. No worries. Oops. I'm making him look pretty silly. That's okay, he's gonna be funny. I don't know if you guys have ever seen the show Shaun the Sheep, but it's what he reminds me of. Okay, and then I'm gonna put a little bit of glue on the back of this. Same glue, tacky glue. And I'm gonna I'm gonna find sort of where I want his head to be. Right there. Yeah, I could definitely have made his head bigger. Okay, so I'm gonna glue him right there. And while that tacky glue dries, I'm gonna show you how to make a wolf. Okay, so when you're done with the sheep, you can make other sheep. Here's my other examples of the other two sheep I made. I made a gray one with a black head, and I made a black one with a white face and put the googly eyes. So I made all of those the same, and then I'm gonna show you in a little while how to attach the magnets. Now here's my wolf. And this is gonna work pretty much exactly like the sheep with the tacky glue. I didn't put googly eyes on this guy yet, but you can, or you can leave it off and just draw little round eyes. The difference was how I made the shape of the wolf's face. So I'm gonna show you how I drew that. What I did was I made a big V. This is, I'm gonna make this tiny on a piece of paper, but I'm gonna show you big right here. And then I made it a curve across the top, kind of like a, I don't know, like a shallow ice cream cone or like a slice of pizza, I'm not sure. And then I did two pointy ears. You know, wolves are kind of related to dogs. And then it's gonna have more of just like a big nose on the end like this, right? Because its mouth would be underneath this part that we don't see, and then its eyes would go here. So that's how to make a really simple wolf face. And same thing, you can just do it on a sheet of cardstock, draw it on, cut it out, and glue it with tacky glue onto this wool pom-pom. The next thing we're going to make is a shepherd's staff. So it's gonna look like this. I don't know if you've ever seen a picture of a shepherd. They would carry around sort of a wooden stick with a curve on the end, and they would use this to help take care of their sheep, to guide their sheep, to show them where to go. They could also maybe fight off an animal or something like that. And it was just a useful tool for them to have. So because it's a little hard to make an actual shepherd, this is gonna be what our symbol is for a shepherd who protects his sheep or her sheep. Could be a shepherdess. So that's our sample, and what we're gonna need for this is a brown pipe cleaner, or you might either have one long one that's folded in half, or you might have two shorter ones. Either thing is fine, and then a brown bead. So if you have a long one that's folded in half, you're gonna hold on to the folded end and twist them together. If you have two separate ones, same thing, just hold their ends together and twist them together. And you're gonna twist almost down to the end, but leave a little space. And then we're gonna put the bead on. And the bead is what's gonna help us attach it to the magnet later. And what we're gonna do is once the bead is on, we're gonna just pull these two little parts. So it kind of is like a T shape, if we look at it that way. And then I'm gonna turn it over, so that's actually gonna be the bottom. And we want to curve our staff. So you just curve the pipe cleaner. And your staff might be big, it might be small, it doesn't really matter. And the shape of a staff is kind of like the top of a question mark. That's how I like to think of it. So what I'm gonna do is, because this one doesn't need any time to dry, I'm gonna show you how to glue it onto the magnet right now. And I think our little sheep from before is dry enough to glue him onto a magnet. You can also, if you want to, use some paper and like cut out a little tail and glue it on, you know, whatever, you can be creative. But don't put feet on because we're gonna glue them to the magnet. So this is really, listen up to this part because it's really important. All of the sheep and the wolf you are going to glue onto the flat, smooth side of the magnet, not the dot, okay? These are all gonna go on the flat side of the magnet. And the shepherd's staff is gonna get glued onto the side with the dot. And we will show you why that is gonna work. So what I'm gonna do is take my super glue. Again, this is for an adult to do. I'm going to put a it's dripping out already. I'm going to put a very small dot right on the middle of that, and I'm going to close it back up immediately. Notice I never got my hands anywhere near the glue. And I'm going to put this guy right here, and I'm going to press down for about 10 seconds. Now the super glue, you should give it a few minutes to dry, but after a few minutes, it's pretty dry. So, but just press down for about 10 seconds. Put some glue for the shepherd's staff. Now this one, I'm gonna try to put it a little bit more in a line But if it's just a dot in the middle, that's okay too. It'll spread out. And I'm gonna close it back up immediately. And I'm gonna take the shepherd's staff. Again, I'm not putting my fingers anywhere near the glue. Oh, the magnet jumped. It jumped to the pipe cleaner because the pipe cleaner has metal in the middle. And I am gonna hold this. If you can see, I put it right on the pipe cleaner, right on where the strip of glue was. And I'm gonna hold this for about 10 seconds. Now in my example, I had pretty little tiny pipe cleaner edges. In this one, they ended up being a little bit longer. So you can either cut them off with scissors or you could, might be able to wrap them down too. If you want to, this is the sheet that I was drawing on, but you wouldn't have drawn on this. You should have a blank sheet of cardstock, and I would grab some markers or crayons, colored pencils, whatever you want. The only thing is you gotta make sure this is flat, so don't make it a collage with glued paper, just draw on it. And you can make it look like a field where the sheep would live. And you can also make a sheepfold. So here is how I colored mine. So I made this sheep pen, and oops, gotta make sure y'all can see it. Sheep pen, the field, I drew some nice green grass for them to eat, cool water for them to drink, and I even drew a place where there's some rocks that might be like dark, scary places for the sheep where they might get lost, and then they can live in the sheep pen. So I am gonna take all the sheep that I made before because I know they're nice and dry. They're gonna go live in their sheep pen. Now there's also a wolf. He is gonna go kind of here in the dark, scary places, and I have the good shepherd, and the good shepherd takes care of his sheep. You can see the sheep love him, right? Boop. So, but what is fun is you can have the shepherd watching over the sheep, and the sheep go out to eat, and they're eating the good green grass, and they might drink the water. But when the wolf comes, he scatters the sheep. Ah, run away, run away. But the good shepherd gathers up the sheep. He knows their name, and they know the good shepherd's voice, and takes them to safety. So now you have a little toy. So if you notice, these magnets, the 4 little pom-poms, are all the same. So when they come close together, I'll show you with these magnets. These are all made on the smooth side. When they come close together, they push each other apart, right? But the good shepherd is made with the dot side, and it grabs them. They attract to each other instead of repelling. And now you have a toy, and these also are just normal magnets, so they'll stick to your fridge or a filing cabinet or your desk or something, and you can be reminded that the good shepherd will always go and look after and gather up his sheep and protect them.